Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Watching the Boxes, fantasy basketball podcast hosted by #basketball.com, your home for the very best tools and analysis on the entire internet. Go check them out, #basketball.com. I'm your host, Mike Catron, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Tyler P. Watts. What is up, Tyler?
We finally got a week of streaming. If you're a streaming guy, this is your week.
Yeah, finally. Let's just get right to the advanced NBA schedule grid. My favorite tool on #basketball.com. We finally did it. We made it. This is the most normal looking week in ages. Like, we had the election, we had Thursday night football, we had a holiday, I think. I don't know. We had opening week, which is always kind of weird. We're going into week 5. And look at this. Look at this beautiful week, Tyler. 8-6, 8-4, 8-7-6. We could.
I would argue even the 3 days with 8, you probably can maybe fit a streamer in there, depending on what your team looks like. Maybe not, but probably can.
You potentially could stream every single day this week, which is incredibly rare. Like, it almost never happens this way. It's week 5. Like, it's already week 5. If you are in a weird start my playoff early league, your league might be like 30% done, which is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely crazy, and not only crazy, but it's wild how the schedule is playing out, how many surprises we've seen, right? I feel like we've seen a lot of surprising things so far to start the year, and that's good. And the West is the bloodbath we expect it to be, which is going to be that. Looking at those standings, like, if you even start now and just do that like every day and chart it out, like go to that basketball reference page where like it goes through the standings every day. Like, it's insane how quickly like you can go 4-0 in a week and jump from 12th to 2nd, 3rd.
Yeah.
And that's just insane, right? Like, and this is kind of the same way in the East, except for the teams are all way worse.
Yeah. Significantly worse, per usual. Water is wet, and the East is worse than the West. That's every single season. Never seems to fail. We've obviously been experiencing in the first 5 weeks a lot of significant injuries. I wouldn't say like more than last year. Maybe more time missed than last year, especially for some big name players. But honestly, like, injuries are part of the game. Every time someone gets injured, that's another opportunity. The Pelicans are experiencing really a horrific group of injuries, but some of those players are going to get healthier here in the next couple weeks. It's a long season. If you've been struggling up until this point because of injuries, trying to stay afloat, hopefully you've been, squeaking out the occasional 5-4, maybe keeping it to 4-5. I've absolutely had some teams with Paul George and Embiid and Trae Young, who I've lost 3-6. I'm not in a good place in a couple leagues, right? It's a long season. Every single week gets more important than the last. Week 5 is certainly more important than week 4. This week, I feel like you can get the tables to turn here, because players are going to get a little bit healthier, and you can stream every single day. I want to immediately point out there are a record. This is why there's no big bulk days, apparently. I don't think I remember the last time there was 4 teams only playing 2 games in a week, Tyler.
Yeah, it's definitely a strange one. The Suns play on Monday and Wednesday too, which that's even, and the Thunder played Tuesday and Wednesday, and then not at all for the rest of the week.
Yeah, so a back-to-back, but then not at all the rest of the week. They're probably like the fuck. We couldn't figure out how not to play a back-to-back. an away home
Yeah,
back to back.
yeah, I don't know. There's obviously a lot of quirks, and so what is happening with some of this is, the NBA Cup is on. I'm sure you people know this. The games are on Tuesdays and Fridays,
Yep.
but one of the rules, so to speak, is that that can never be the second night of a back to back because they don't want people sitting out
That's fair.
for NBA Cup games. So you won't see any Monday Tuesday back to backs because the Tuesday night would be NBA Cup, and if you're in the NBA Cup, it cannot be on the second night of back to back. You won't see any Thursday Friday back to backs because obviously Friday is the second day of the NBA Cup this week. So I think some of that plays into it. They also try to like make sure you have like certain days off in the NBA Cup, which I think makes it even harder, right? Like the Thunder play on Tuesday, but then they don't want them to play their second NBA Cup game this week. So then they have off on Friday, but then they didn't play on Thursday or Saturday, and then I don't know why on Sunday either. So like they have a weird 4 days in a row off, which is just strange.
Yeah, that's a little baffling, but I feel like it's beneficial to fantasy streaming. It's even these two, like obviously if you're in a weekly lock league, I don't know if I'm playing any of the two like two games in a week. Just really maybe SGA. It doesn't do it for me for any of these other players on these teams, just to get two games in an entire week. But daily lineup changes, right? I actually feel like some of the two teams kind of like are in play, right? You get an Oklahoma somebody from the Thunder Tuesday, Wednesday, and then you could just drop them the rest of the week. Like you don't need them. Same with the Suns.
Yeah, for sure. I think that that's a great strategy, and I think looking at it like that, you're gonna want to try to get multiple games from a pickup this week, right?
Yes.
It makes all the 4 game guys even more valuable, right? Like who's playing for the Sixers, Magic, Bucks, Clippers, Pacers, Rockets, Warriors, Bulls. Those are obviously the most valuable teams. But if not, I want somebody that's playing. No one's playing the Monday Tuesday back to back, right? But like I want somebody playing 2 games between Monday and Wednesday, so I can keep them on my roster for the first 3 days and get 2 games out of it as opposed to 1 game, right? So obviously there's a lot of people to look at, but like the Thunder and the Suns are obviously in that group, and I mean other teams in that group would be the Pelicans, which they're actually not a bad team to look at because Brandon Ingram's the only one healthy right now.
Oh yeah.
So they play at Dallas, at Cleveland. It's a tough back to back on Tuesday, Wednesday. But like, could I get, Jerome Robinson Earl, somebody that's starting on their team, going to play 30 minutes, maybe get you, 12, 15 points, a steal, a couple rebounds, a couple assists. Like, they're a team that I'm definitely looking at. Memphis is another team. Ja's been out. I think Ja's going to be out at least one of those 2 games. So they're another team that you could look at. Maybe get somebody that's very low owned that could give you some very nice production.
Yeah, I've seen Aldama bounce back and forth between people's rosters and not on people's rosters. J Huff's getting good. I don't potentially love J Huff at all. Journeyman getting some blocks, but like as a stream and you need some blocks, all right, cool, bring them in. Like there's no reason not to exploit the way that this
Well,
week is going to play out. There's no reason to not like get guys who are going to be playing minutes not on your team, at least as a streamer.
here's why I'll mention J Huff might be a little bit more viable in that back to back. Denver, assuming Jokic is back from his personal reasons that he's missed the last couple games,
Yeah.
and Philly, Joel Embiid. So, not sure you want Jaren Jackson guarding those 2 guys and potentially fouling out in the first quarter. So,
Yeah.
I think J Huff probably in line for a little bit more minutes against those 2 teams specifically, just because they have a big center that is going to create problems for Jaren Jackson Jr. if he has to guard them the entire game.
Yeah. I'd actually wager Zach Edey isn't ready for getting put in the spin cycle by Embiid and Jokic. Like I will probably tune into at least one or two of those games just to see how Edey handles dealing with Embiid and Jokic. I feel like one of the things that always happens is like a rookie will get some confidence, a rookie will be playing good, and then they'll go up against like a real vet, like an all-star, like an actual NBA world talent, and then just be made just like exploited down to like the T. It's like, oh yeah, you don't know uh half the things you need to know. Not that you're bad, it's just that you just haven't experienced playing against a player of this worldly talent ever. So you just don't even know what you don't know. And I think those guys might
That's
eat. Those
fair.
guys might eat. So, kind of bolsters the fact that Jay Huff, those minutes might be going, even though they look like they're going down right now, might be coming back up this week because Jay Huff been around the block a few times. So might be out there doing some elbows in the ribs for all the while. If you're still getting paid and you're like if you're Jay Huff and you're getting paid still and you're not putting some elbows into some ribs, like what are you doing out there? Like that's what they pay you for. Let's look. Let's look at the Thursday games because Thursday is the least amount. There's only 4 games on Thursday. Um, we got a couple good teams. I think the Raptors, right? You got that Monday, Thursday, and then the Sunday, Monday back to back. That's a good one. I do also like Detroit. Anytime your team is playing the Bulls, that's probably a pretty good matchup to exploit because the Bulls suck. At Charlotte, at Orlando would be kind of hard, but Toronto into next week as well. So let's go look at the Pistons. Then we'll look at the Raptors. Tyler, on the Detroit. Actually, I've been I've been enjoying some Detroit basketball this season. Jaden Ivey, I keep seeing him live in that space between on a roster, on the waiver wire, on the roster, on a waiver wire. Malik Beasley also in that space as well. Even though the percentages are bad for Jaden Ivey, the dude's playing 33 minutes a game and he's scoring, he's getting rebounds, he's getting assists. It's I'm surprised Jaden Ivey is on as many waiver wires as I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, throw out the percentages, and he's positive or neutral value in every counting category. Talking A category league, so that's 5, positive or neutral categories, which is good for a streamer, especially like if you can find him on your waiver wire. I'd be all in for that, especially because they're the Pistons. They're probably not competing for the playoffs this year, and Ivy might be playing 35 or 36 minutes down the stretch as they, kind of take their foot off the gas and try to tank and lose some more games.
Yeah, I think like the rest of the season was Jaden Ivey, 12 team leagues, must own. Lee Beasley is someone I've streamed quite a few times. He's shooting like absolute garbage, which is unusual. And I think like as we've talked about many times, and over the last few games for him as well, everything reverts back to the mean. And you're seeing like Lee Beasley actually when he shoots well, he gets you very good points for a guy who's likely on your waiver wire.
Yeah, for sure, and maybe even Tim Hardaway Jr. Right? Like if you're looking for points and threes, like Tim Hardaway Jr. is another guy. Like he's got to play as long as his questionable tag goes away, and I think him and Beasley are both guys that if you're looking for threes and points, both great streamers if available.
Yeah, completely agree. Let's look at the Toronto Raptors, see who we might want to stream over on the Raptors. Jakob Poeltl got crazy with it the other night. Like what did he drop? 35? 35 and 12. He's at 25 points, 25 and 19, followed by a 35 and 12 night. Shout out, against Boston. Shout out to Jakob Poeltl for having like a career 2-game. Actually, he's playing incredibly well this season, and I feel like it is just because the Toronto Raptors need someone and to lift up the scoring with Scotty Barnes not playing, and also going through him is a choice, right? Like playing through Poeltl with your offense is a choice you have to not a choice you want to make. I think just a choice you have to make. So we talk about rankings
Well,
not being like the ultimate value, buy low, sell high, but like seems like a very like, yeah, I don't think the rest of the season that Jakob Puddle is going to like continue playing at this level. Like, I don't think he's going to just like continue to be a top 40 player, but he's obviously going to continue to play and is playing very well. And the Toronto ain't going nowhere, so like, why not? Why not play through Poodle?
well, Quickly's out too, right? And so that doesn't help. And honestly, like without Quickly, who is their point guard? Like RJ Barrett got 15 assists in that game against the Celtics, but like, I mean, he's not really a point guard. Davion Mitchell's not really a point guard. Grady Dick, not a point
Not a
guard.
point guard.
Right? Like, so they don't really have a point guard either. So like, just dumping the ball down to Podol and letting him go to work is not the worst strategy when you're really kind of lacking ball handling and lacking playmaking ability on your roster. I would argue though that like a lot of these guys, like Mitchell's gonna play a lot of minutes as long as Quickly's out.
Yes.
Is he the best streamer in the world? No, but if he gets you, 3 or 4 rebounds, 5 assists, maybe a steal, maybe 10 or 15 points, like it's pretty good for a streamer. And the thing he's going to get is minutes.
Yes. I would
right?
even push it a little higher. Like if you're in a 12-team league and you need assists or you need to bolster your assists, or you're playing someone who you could beat in assists, you're looking at the rankings and you're saying like, okay, if you absolutely have the guy, like don't worry about it. But if the assist is a matchup category for you, I got Mitchell on my roster, sitting on my bench permanently. Like I'm gonna ride out that steal and 5 to 6 assists a night in a lot of my like bigger leagues, or even with some of my 12-team leagues. That's enough for me to have you on the roster until Quickly comes back.
Sure. And beyond that, like Grady Dick and Akbaji are playing a lot of minutes too. And so, if you need kind of someone that's just gonna in a deeper league gonna get minutes, like I think both of those two are fine options. I mean, if you look right now, like Akbaji's ranked 88th on the season, and Grady Dick is ranked a little bit lower, I think, but
Akbaji's playing. Both those. I mean, it's like a little inconsistent, but like he puts up good numbers. Like he's a quality player, and then you look at the minutes, you're like, oh yeah, no, this guy's like the guy in Toronto right now because Scotty Barnes is out.
Right, and Grady Dick's 97th. So like both those guys, I think are valuable if they're knocking around, or maybe even if you could trade some back end fodder on your roster. Like I don't have the perfect name, but like maybe somebody you picked up off the waiver wire has a great game, and you're like, okay, well he had this great game because this person was out, or he got lucky and made 11 of his 12 shots. I'm gonna trade for someone like Dick or Akbaji. Like I'm gonna drop this guy anyways. Maybe I trade for this guy, get him for this week, have a really good week, and then I'll drop him or I'll trade him.
Yeah, that's a fantastic strategy. I think like with Grady Dick, that 4-game stretch where he 30, 31, 22, 26, right? Like that really boosted his visibility in fantasy basketball. I also think it boosted his value in fantasy basketball. But in reality, right? I think like especially with this team healthy, he's more of that, hey, I come in, get hot, get you 3-pointers, get you basically borderline very little else, and I score 16 points, 14 points. That feels like probably his, I guess, revert to the mean, but like in the role that he currently is now, where he has to come out, take 20 shots a game, play 38 minutes, like he can fill it up. And so like use that now. Like we talk about like kind of like players being in categories. He's not a consistent, like gonna start, gonna play, gonna be good every single night. He's not in that category. He's probably he can peak really nicely when he plays. And so it's a risk reward pickup or a risk reward roster that right now, based on his current situation, there's more likely you're going to hit the reward than, you know, bust out or get craps or whatever metaphor you want to use for gambling. Um, Chances are you're going to get a solid game to a great game versus a 9-point game, which he had the other night. So it's going to be a crapshoot. That's why he's risky. That's why even though he's playing 37 minutes a game, he's not consistent. He's not going to be absolutely fucking killing it every single night, which is why I don't like want him on my roster long term. But right now, I think he's a great stream. He's certainly a great stream if he's available, or even a great. I've never heard like the idea of like trading for streaming. We might want to look into that, Tyler. What do you think about like stream trading?
Oh, I do this. I do this for sure. Now,
Okay,
like especially if the
that's
guy I
interesting.
picked up has a really good game, and I'm like, oh, this is not real at
Yeah,
all. I will offer him for like some back end guys on somebody else's roster that I'm like, all right, even if this guy has like 2-3 weeks value, like that's valuable to me because this is a streaming spot, right?
yeah,
Um, and so I will do that. Now it doesn't always work, and like obviously it you need an active league. Like if people aren't going to respond to you for 5 days, well, like
then it's
obviously that's
over.
not going to work,
Yeah,
right? So, but like if you're in a really active league where people want to make moves, and you're like, hey, dude, I've got. I mean, I don't know. It depends on what day you're listening to this, but like, look at the guy you picked up last night and see that he had 25 points and 5 rebounds and 5 assists, and be like, hey, I got this guy. He just dropped this great game. I was wondering if you would, want him for the next, would you would want him and I could have, somebody who maybe had a bad game, like Grady Dick had 9 points in that last game. Like maybe that's the kind of move you try to make. And some people go for that because they're like, oh man, he just had a really good game. Maybe that's his breakout. Maybe that's, his new value, whatever. And they
yeah.
make
Or
the
I
move
was thinking
and
about dropping this guy anyway. Like, might as well just trade him.
yep. Yeah, for anything, right? Oh, this guy just had a good game. Maybe I'll keep him. Maybe I'll drop him. You know what I mean? So it's definitely something I try to do. You need an active league, obviously, to make it happen. And if your league's not that active, then it doesn't really work.
No, doesn't work if no one's fucking paying attention to their roster. But chances are you're like winning that league because you are paying attention to your roster. But like I love that idea. I guess I've never really thought about specifically trading to get like I've traded for like a guy who I was going to immediately drop, but I don't think I've ever traded for a guy who's got like a really good schedule this week just so next week I can drop him. Like, I don't think I've ever done that, Tyler. I think I'm gonna have to steal that idea. That's a good idea.
Yeah, and then I think, like I said, it's something that I try to do in my active leagues, and maybe it works for you, maybe it doesn't. It can obviously blow up in your face too, but if you're gonna drop the player anyways, I would argue it's a only reward move, right? There's zero risk.
That's true. Like, because you're gonna have a streaming spot anyway. You can just get rid of him if he sucks. You can do whatever you want because it doesn't. The consequences are low. Other than that, for week 5, Tyler, going into week 5, the only other player I want to talk about, and feel free to add some names to this list, but it's Diabate over on the Hornets taking up the center spot for a team that just continues to like not get rid of their centers. Their centers just keep getting hurt. So it's like, oh, we'll get another center. And shit, he's hurt. Diabate like has had 4 double-digit rebound games in a row, is getting blocks, and um, depending on what team he's playing, could actually get you a few points. I think this is a very obvious stream for this week, in my opinion, even though I think the Hornets are potentially 3 games. They are a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. I do feel like you can fit him your into your strategy for this week. I think that's like to me my top pickup of definitely on your waiver wire players. Is there any other players, Tyler, that you're kind of either focusing on or definitely picking up this week?
Uh, I don't have a good name off the top of my head for sure. I'm actually I'll tell you what I am trying to do in a lot of my leagues. I'm breaking this week into kind of segments because of the way the schedule falls. Like, I'm looking at Monday through Wednesday. I'm looking at those teams. I'm trying to figure out who the best option is there. Then on Thursday, I might just pick up somebody just for that game. because there's only 4 games, right? So like it's just whoever's the best available option in that moment. Then in that Friday, Saturday, Sunday portion of it, I'm actually looking who's playing Monday too to try to get maybe 2, maybe 3 games, right? Like a team, you look at the Nets, they've got Friday, they've got Sunday, they've got Monday. Like that seems juicy. The Mavericks kind of the same schedule,
Mm-hmm.
Friday, Sunday, Monday. Like I'm looking at that. The Blazers have Friday, Saturday, and Monday. I'm looking at those type of teams to try to get to just maximize my games, not just in week 5, but in week 6. Um, which week 6 um, is another schedule like looking ahead where there's 9 games on Monday, which is a lot, but you still might be able to stream. There's no games on Thursday. There's 14 games on Wednesday. There's 10 games on Friday. There's 10 games on Sunday. So like streaming next week is going to be hard. So getting an extra game or two, if somebody you picked up this week could be big in the week
Yeah.
6, which has Thanksgiving, obviously. So that's why there's no games on Thursday.
Yeah, I think that's going into the fact that you can kind of like permeate your stream any way you want this week makes it very important for you to understand the schedule, understand what stats you need against the team that you are playing against, right? Like we've gotten enough, I think enough games under our belt where if you go out to your standings in your category league and you look at how the teams are ranking in the various categories, you should have a much better idea, a little bit closer to what is reality of how those teams operate. And so going out to the standings and seeing your matchup for this week, and then going out to your waiver wire, going over to the schedule on #basketball.com, planning out your week. I would really recommend this, especially if you are playing from behind right now because of injuries or because of just general not playingness of half the fucking players on your team. If you have an IR with 5+ people on it right now, you're gonna have to be a little bit more calculating. Um, so go out there, plan your week, plan the stats that you want to go get off the waiver wire. Uh, Start your week out strong with a couple pickups that bolster you or make you more competitive in something that your opponent isn't that good in, and then adjust as you would normally in a week because blocks and steals are highly variable. Maybe you get a great steal start, maybe you don't. Maybe you give up on steals because you had a horrible steal first few days, and the guy you're playing had a great steal night. Like do the thing that you normally do, but break it out, and as Tyler said, into those sections. Understand the flow of the week, understand who you're playing against, and like the Hornets, the Nuggets, the Grizz, all three of those teams have Saturday, Monday back to backs into next week. With Thanksgiving, having a full Monday is also going to be incredibly important because you're not going to be able to make up for it. And as we've seen already in weeks where there's either 1 game or 0 games, your roster is either full or there's like 4 games being played, and every single person who has not no one's maximized their pickups for the week. So they're going out and trying to get the same 7 players. All 12 of the teams are trying to get the same 7 players on their team. So like, even though you can stream those days, it's harder to stream on days where there are very little teams playing. If you have those big 12 teams, 4 teams, this week is for you. You should win this week. Make it a goal to win week 5. Tyler, do you have anything else you want to say about week 5 or anything you want to plug?
No, that's it. You can check me out on Twitter at Tyler P. Watts. You can check me out on Blue Sky at Tyler P. Watts.
Okay.
I've moved over. I've
Right.
starting a new trend, I guess.
Yeah, a lot of people are moving over to Blue Sky. I think I have a Blue Sky account. Ooh, I should look into that. You can find me on Twitter though, on X, the Everything app at Watch the Boxes. And of course, if you're not following Tyler already, I just don't know what you're doing. Just absolutely, probably a way better follow than me. I'm just tweeting out God knows what. I'm just retweeting all sorts of nonsense. But you should follow me as well at Watch the Boxes. That's it for week 5. We got We got more coming up for you. Hit us up with what you want to hear, what players you want to talk about. If you got any questions about your team, about week 5, we're available. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time.